Hello, everyone, and welcome to another presentation from a very special person over here. Debashis Singh, Senior VP and a CIO of Mphasis is here. We welcome you on board, sir. So Debashis took over the responsibility of CIO at Mphasis in the year 2016, a proven business leader with a distinguished career over 25 years in IT and ITE's industry, managing various aspects of technology and business challenges in well-known and high-growth information technology companies. He specializes in depth understanding of technology, system architecture, product, and systems. Thank you so much for being over here, sir, and doing this second presentation of the day. And the presentation is about can automation drive transformation? Over to you, sir. Thank you, and thank you for the smile.
All right. Thank you so much for that quick introduction. I hope my content is visible to everyone. So let me start. Automation drive transformation? I am starting with a question, little unorthodox way, and we will take this journey. By the time we complete this session today, we should get the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Debashis Singh. I'm the global CIO of Mphasis. We're one of the leading IT services company, close to around 28,000 employees and 1.25 billion US dollar. That's a quick brief about myself and my company. Let's get started. Okay. All right, before we start or get into more details, I just want you to focus on this particular slide, which brings certain data points. It is extremely critical in the current days to focus on data, and here is what the data says, and this is a report from Gartner. It talks about the efficiency, risk mitigation, and cost saving. These are the three primary drivers for an effective implementation of automation in any organization. While there are others you can see in the screen, but these are the top three drivers. And if you look at the number of respondents which have kind of chosen this, they are 72% and so on and so forth. So that says majority of the people find efficiency, risk mitigation, and cost saving as the primary driver for automation in the organization. Now, what the effective implementation is all about? I use a word called effective implementation within the organization. And what does it mean? It means a clear business objective, because if your objective of automation is not very clearly defined, you will not really achieve what you will need to achieve. So a very clear business objective, it is not a technology objective, right? You need to have right analytics around the business process and the right platform to support that outcome, whatever you want to achieve, the automation platform I'm talking about. Then, of course, the standard of implementation, have the right way of implementing, having the right governance structure, and scale across the organization. Many a times we have seen that people choose processes which may not be cutting across the entire organization, but for selective smaller components. So that may not always give you the outcome that you are expecting. Yes, there are other priorities like compliance and other things, which statutory requirements and etc., which definitely needs to be taken care, and that may be for limited coverage within the organization processes. But keep in mind, if you are really want to transform, you definitely need to have the length and breadth of your organization reach. And while you do that, continuous process, it is not a destination, it is a journey. So you need to have the right measures, ability to iterate and optimize as you go forward. So these are certain data points which comes from the research side of it, and we will now get into the details of how really it can be done. Let's take a normal situation in any organization, and I believe that we will have some technology folks on the audience, and they can relate it very easily. This is a normal approach in any organization managing data flows between different systems. Data has to flow from one system to other system. Otherwise, you feel like you are working in silos. There is a repetitive requirement of asking for the same data and so on and so forth. That's pretty obvious, and it comes natural in any enterprise for that matter. Resource provisioning, and I'm talking about any kind of resources. So in a manual way or an automated way. So that is definitely up to certain extent you might have kind of done some automation around it. Self-service, and I believe many of the organizations have taken quite a advanced stage of self-service delivery within the organization for different services. Maybe as small as I need a letter. Do I need to go to a desk, or I can just make it online, everything, and I get fulfilled with the system on the click of the button, right? So that is these are kind of self-service I'm talking about. Then comes scheduling and monitoring and allotting, integral part of it. Any task we're talking about, any processes we're talking about, any tools we're talking about, we need to have scheduling for different activities inside it. We need to monitor it if there is uh, everything going as expected or there is a gap, and we need to alert it, right? So that is anyway a part of it. Event based action, if this happens then do the next, right? So this is event based actions, and of course workflow automations. So these are the different small automation which might be happening within the organization, and I'm sure many of your organizations must be kind of done or matured in this kind of processes. While these are smaller component, how to create a larger view around it, that is what we will possibly focus today, and here is what we should look at. And in the normal day-to-day operations, we do certain and or many of this above automation initiatives I just spoke about. But in terms of, I mean, if I just step back and look at automation in a definition in many of the articles and magazines that comes out, everybody talks about RPA or a bot. But believe me, it is not a requirement to have RPA and bot for everything. So you need to have a very clear strategic approach how you want to deal with automation within your organization. RPA and bots need to be only looked into when there is no API integration possible between two isolated systems or distinct applications and tools that you have, and that is the only scenario we need to look at an RPA or automation, AI-based automation. Otherwise, the basic scripting or orchestration or a task-based automation, this is good enough. But while you do that, that is what I was trying to say. You need to have that clear approach in terms of how you want to deal with automation within your organization. All right. So the points to keep in mind, maybe repetitive. Do not look automation in isolation. Create a long-term strategy. Don't look at short-term tasks. Look at process-based automation, which is aligned to your organization priorities and strategy. That is the first component you need to keep in mind. So come move out of smaller task-based automations. Look at long-term processes. Look at processes from a long-term strategic initiative standpoint. Do not focus on the moving something from point A to point B. Like, I mean, there's a famous joke, and those live in the metro cities will definitely understand what I'm telling. Creating a flyover in one of the signal and putting the traffic to the next signal doesn't make any sense, right? You are just moving a problem from point A to point B. You are not really giving a solution which will kind of expressway or whatever we call it for a travel from a source to a destination. So that is what you should focus on. Focus on a process which is source, which is initiation of a task. Destination is fulfillment of the complete task or a complete process. It is combination of multiple tasks. So always look at from end to end automation. Do not look at in isolation. Yes, you might do that implementation by step, but your objective, your approach should be end to end. That's the key component, and always be focused on that. Uh, the last, which is the most critical one, do not drive automation as a technology initiative. Very, very critical. Normally, it has been seen that there are tech geeks in the team and who want to kind of try new things and do a lot of processes or the task automated and writing scripts or doing a basic level of automation. But what happens is by that you are creating different silos. You are not aligning which is the critical for your organization. So that is something which will happen only when you partner with business units. So it has to be always looked at a combined approach between business and technology. Do not look at in isolation, do not work in silos. That's a very, very critical one. So with this approach, with this model, you will surely, if you follow this, surely get the following five benefits. And let's focus on these benefits. Uh, some are very obvious. Number one, reduce time and cost. uh, if you do automation of a processes, obviously it will bring down the turnaround time, and the turnaround time comes down. Of course, there is a benefit in terms of a tangible cost side of it, and research says at least 30% benefit you should get in a standard automation. If you are doing a use case which is not giving you at least 30% benefit and it is not driven from the compliance angle, then do not focus on that. That is not something that's going to really change the organization. So focus on those processes which is will give you minimum, at the minimum, 30% benefit from this initiative. So reduce time and the cost. Enhancement of the customer experience. As you kind of automate processes, quite obvious that lot of actions, lot of tasks, lot of kind of the steps which was taking time in the past, that will be reduced drastically because everything will happen by the system. As the initiation happens, the subsequent steps start kind of getting executed by the system one by one. So you will be able to reduce from hours and possibly in days to minutes and seconds. So that will eventually give the speed, will give that wow experience to your stakeholders, to your customers. So that is quite obvious part of obvious outcome of any automation initiative that you do. Lower operational risk. As you know, many a time the research says majority, more than 50% of the gap which comes out part of audit or part of any deviation, that is due to human error. Essentially, it is not intentional, but unintentional errors which happens by the people who are executing those steps. So if you follow the automation path, you do not have the probability or the risk of any human error because you are completely eliminating that. There is a possibility the task may not run at all. So in that case, the task will not get completed. So execution will stop. But if it happens, it will happen as the process defined. So your deviations or the non-compliance will become zero. So that will give you a higher kind of adherence to the processes and of course lowering the risk that is associated with operations. Uh, so that is moving to the next part, improved internal processes. Uh, if you look at different processes, I mean, we spoke about fulfillment, we spoke about provisioning. These are all different processes within the organization, which will see a major change from days to minutes by using the automation. And in certain areas, you might have to look at AI and RPA based because a lot of enterprise related tools and system may not be having the ability to completely integrate between themselves. So that is the place you have to use it. But once implemented, it will give you much quicker turnaround in terms of reporting, in terms of providing the fulfilling the request, and so on and so forth. And the last one, which is again a critical angle we generally miss many a times, and I think people in the room will definitely align to this. We have to change the system, the existing system that we have internally within the organization because of obsolescence. My business requirement is getting fulfilled. I don't have any challenges with the current system, but the OEM has decided to stop the support or brought in a new product. Because of that, they're stopping the old one, and hence I have to upgrade, and so on and so forth. There are many such scenarios which is there, and that brings the challenge in terms of should I upgrade? It has an investment requirement and a lot of other, because a lot of systems in this is legacy, right? In any enterprise. So it is difficult to just switch off a legacy system and switch on a new system. It is a transition, there is a change management, there are other complications involved. So many a times we want possibly little more time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe little more than that, and using robotics automation you will be able to fulfill those challenges and may not be having to deal with the obsolescence or replacement of your existing systems just because the OEM is driving you. So these are the key benefits which is likely to come part of the automation if you drive it correctly within your enterprise. So now the question is how to drive it. Let's get little deep into it and understand and take a view of this a four-step approach, how the automation should be driven within the organization, which will lead to transformation. Uh, First one, create joint ownership, the business owner and the technology team. Very, very critical. I spoke about in the past. We need to have a joint ownership, joint accountability of the outcome. So that is the first thing. Create that team. If you do not have that team, then it is very unlikely that you will see the outcome we just spoke about. Once you have the team, take do research, take input from the market, speak to experts, get the insight how it should be done. Don't think you will be able to have all the answers, because every scenario, every organization is unique. So you might have to connect with multiple folks and talk to multiple OEMs, understand what is the right for you, then choose the right, take the right decision. Do not just choose one platform which is suitable for one of your requirement. There are multiple requirements we're talking about, right, within organization. So we should definitely have a length and breadth of the deep dive to understand what are my specific use cases which is in front of me or likely to come, and the platform and solution I'm choosing should be able to deal with that, because all RPA platforms are not, so to say, going to meet your business requirement within your organization. So be very clear about that. Run some POCs, proof of concept, and then only agree this is the right platform for me. Then once you have the platform, once you have the use cases, find out which one to go fast. Standard 80-20 rule. 20% of those use cases which will solve probably 80% or more of your problem, focus on those fast, because that is what is going to bring a change in your organization culture, and of course the reaction and towards automation and adaptability of automations. So your stakeholder satisfaction and that experience what you spoke about will come when you look at processes which cost across more than 80% of your organization. So focus on those 20% fast, then accordingly create other sequential priorities based on maybe compliance, maybe statutory, maybe other needs that you might be having. And in terms of implementation, take hybrid approach. Do not try to do everything on RPA platform. Do not try to do everything on AI platform, or don't do everything on orchestration. There are different use cases which in the step two you would have definitely detailed and discussed with the experts and the partners. Accordingly, create that plan of combination of tools. Orchestration should be done by an orchestration tool. Do not use other tool for that. Scripting can be done by your own teams, or you can take external help for that, which is very, very basic level. Typically, what if then, so on and so forth. Orchestration process between one to other, wherever you have the ability to do an API call or a interconnect between different tools, use the orchestration. Wherever you do not have any ability to interconnect two siloed applications and tools, use RPA for those platforms or those scenarios, those use cases. So that is what the steps, 4 steps that you should follow. And I'm sure if you follow that, it will definitely going to give the result what you're looking for. While we do that, keep the following learnings in mind. Legacy systems. Every enterprise will have legacy system. They are complex. They are not aligned or may not be aligned to newest requirements and newest platforms. So keep that in mind. Don't ignore. Definitely deep dive when you do the detailing part of it. Joint ownership. We spoke about it. I don't want to repeat that. Always keep that in mind. It is a requirement. It's a must requirement to have a joint ownership, joint accountability. Otherwise, you will definitely land in trouble. Exceptions in any enterprise, exception is kind of part of the process. Try to avoid as much as you can. I am not saying that you should make zero exception. There are scenarios which require exceptions to run the organization, but try to avoid as much. Try to limit it, try to minimize, because exceptions many a times cannot be handled with automation. So hence your exceptions should be limited. Rather, you should, if required, try to change your existing process based on the percentage exceptions you are doing, so that your base system becomes more efficient. So look at reducing exceptions, and of course that will give you reusability of those tools and platforms, what are the AI IPs what you are building. We spoke about this. RPA is not the solution for everything. Orchestration, basic scripting has to be definitely part of it. So take that hybrid approach. Wherever you have got API level integration possible, do API level. Wherever you have got basic scripting part of it, do the scripting part of it. Don't overload your RPA engine. Wherever there is no integration possible, the applications are not talking to each other, you have legacy systems, and those are the situation scenarios where you should look at RPA or bring AI to kind of improve further. There are last 2 points rather, very very critical. We oftentimes ignore those. RPA runner, when you run the RPA in whatever the tools or whatever the platform or whatever the system you are running it on, that need to be available 24/7. Generally, RPAs are run in standard workstations kind of environment. Uh, and many a time within enterprise, workstations or the desktops are not designed to run 24/7. Somebody might power it off, somebody might reboot it, and so on and so forth. That brings the challenge, because your RPA will stop, and that will possibly put all your other kind of sequencing tasks on risk. So try to keep the RPA runner in a system which can run 24/7, preferably my suggestion will be running it out of the cloud in a typical virtual desktop environment, so that you are not worried about availability of that particular system. Hence, the RPA engine is not running and stopped. That is a very critical component. Keep that in mind. And while you do that, license compliance. Uh, so this RPA engine is going to use typical desktop environment. That is how the RPAs are designed, right? So the licenses, whatever you need, has to be a desktop license to run on that environment. So you have to have those. I mean, talk to OEMs. You might be using different products. So talk to your OEM, give them the complete scenario. I explain this is what I intend to achieve. This is the environment where it is going to run. Is there any violation of licenses that I'm doing by implementing this? Take their input and accordingly align yourself. Otherwise, for getting something good, you will land in trouble. So these are the things you should keep in mind. Now I will talk about a very simple case study which happened recently within Mphasis, and kind of you will understand the power of automation of what it brings. During the initial time, the second week, third week of March, when India announced the lockdown, the COVID pandemic lockdown by government. As I said, we are IT services company. We deliver services for our customers in US and Europe primarily. So we run something called different ODC environments for our different customers. So the access inside these environments are completely aligned to the customer environment, meaning it is the customer's environment which is logically extended to our centers, our delivery centers across India and other places, and our employees are sitting inside those physical isolated areas and delivering services to our customer. So when the lockdown happened, the challenge is our employees cannot come into the office and operate inside those physically locked down ODC environments. So we have to get these employees back to their home, and of course enable them at home to deliver the services. And that of course requires customer acceptance and approval, so we definitely have to reach out to the clients with the need, and by the time we kind of got the approval from the customer, I mean, it is a typical time based activities that I'm talking about here, because everything was happening during that 2 3 days on an hour and minute. It was not on days and weeks, right? So we had this situation for close to around 7,000 plus employees who need to be shifted overnight to their residences, to their home, with, of course, the computing capability, connectivity capability, and of course the other surrounding environment from a security compliance standpoint, so that they can deliver the same services to the clients the way the things were happening from office. So VPN was quite an obvious requirement, but we were not allowed to enable that before because of the, of course, customer approval took time to come. But post it came in, we have to enable that overnight. It came in the early morning US time, which is evening India, and very next day the approach that we took is very next day we want to enable all the employees to work from home. While the logistics part was taken care because we had time to prepare for it and we are all ready, but enabling these users to work from home, and we're talking about thousands, right? 7,000 plus users. Uh, so the solutions was only running it automated platform. Of course, we had in-house team, hence the dependency on external partners are limited. So we created a bot which took almost around 2 hours, 3 hours to build it, test it, make it ready within 4 hours time. 10 o'clock, this bot was put in production to start creating VPN IDs and of course the related activities around it. By next day 9 in the morning, all employees were communicated with their IDs. They are ready to connect and back in production. So this is what happened. Why it happened? The bot worked non-stop without any breaks, doesn't have any challenges in terms of availability or any surrounding effects. So that is what the power of automation we're talking about here. Zero errors, human errors. If you look at in this kind of situation, highly pressurized environments, there is every possibility people would have done mistakes. So what did it? Absolutely zero human error. There's not a single mistake done anywhere. Speed, of course, 100x speed. That is what you get it. And what we got in return, the revenue was protected. There was no impact in terms of revenue, and that thereby the cost was kind of saved to a large extent. I mean, to the way it was supposed to be, completely saved. So that is the power. This is a very very small example. There are many such examples you can find, use cases you can find. This is something pretty happened recently. Hence, I thought I'll just share that with you guys. So this is the power of automation. So if you, because we had the structure in place, we had the architecture in place, we had a strategy in place, and that is precise reason we could turn it around much faster, much quicker. So hence my suggestion is focus on the 4 stage approach that we spoke about, and try to be ready so that you can really transform your organization and build a future ready organization. In summary, plan a long term strategic roadmap. Do not focus on quick or short term approach or a task based approach. Create a long term process based approach and choose those processes which is aligned to strategic direction or priority of your organization. Create a right integration and implementation strategy. It is a hybrid approach that we spoke about. Bring basic scripting requirements handled by scripting, orchestration handled by orchestration layer, and RPA, bring RPA layer for that. And moving next, bring the power of artificial intelligence to augment this and take to the next level and be ready as a future ready organization. So with that, I will stop here.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me, everyone. It was pleasure being here with you guys today morning. Wishing you all the very best for the rest of the day. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much, Debashis. It was a pleasure hosting you as well on this platform here. And thank you for your knowledge and ideas of sharing on the platform as well. Thank you. Have a lovely day and stay connected and stay safe as well, Debashis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.